In the set case of my youngest son, we were at San Leandro Juvenile Hall, and so it's a pretty simple setup. The judge is in the front, my son, the attorney, and the district attorney, and I was sitting behind a little gated area. But what brought me to total shock was the district attorney literally pulled his chair back to where he could be about probably 3 feet back to have total view of my son, and started pretty much yelling at my son, saying, "Hey, Gabriel, why don't you just admit you're a Dakota gang member? Why don't you just admit you and your Norteño friends, you go around and you're shooting people and you're doing all these things, you're a bunch of murderers." And I was just in shock because he was like yelling this at my son. He was not calm, he was yelling it. And I was waiting, thinking, okay, the judge is going to cease it, or the lawyer we hired was going to say, "Hey, wait a minute, you can't talk to my client," because he was only 15 at the time. I thought would be someone was going to step in, but evidently that wasn't the case. So I was just so upset. And the more he was just, and you guys are driving around with guns, and that upset me for the fact the case was not a gun case. So I was going, whoa, where is this coming from? And no one is stopping this. So I got so upset, I started raising my hand. And when they wouldn't acknowledge me, I was almost up out of my seat with my hand just shooting up in the air, like, somebody acknowledge my presence. And the judge finally, says, "Ma'am, can I help you?" And I said, "That's my son. I do not like what's going on here. You're not saying anything. He's not stopping it. This man needs to stop." And then the district attorney turns and says, "Well, I'm really sorry. I'm not trying to upset you. What have you?" Wait a minute. I said, "You're so unprofessional." I said, "You're supposed to be the district attorney." I said, "This isn't a gun case. You're sitting here talking about my son driving around going to shoot somebody. There's no gun involved in this case. This is a fist fight." I said, "What are you doing?" "Well, your son's hanging around with friends, and I don't think, if you're aware, and if you're making your son accountable." I said, "My accountability and what I do as a parent is not your business, and you're surely not going to address me on how to be a parent at all. This is not even a conversation. I have nothing that I want to say to you. I do not want to talk to you. All I'm saying is you're unprofessional, and I do not appreciate that you're yelling at my son. That needs to cease immediately." I said, "And I'm really disappointed that that's what's going on in here." And he says, "Well, I don't think you realize." I said, "You need to stop." I said, "You really need to stop. This is a fist fight. This isn't even about anyone driving around with a gun." I said, "You're making my son sound horrible in here." And he just really then apologized and says that he really hopes I hold my son to that level of accountability, because most parents don't. And I really wish I could have taped that day, because I was just so frustrated and so angry that even was allowed to happen to my kid.